All right, today we're going to try to make a video talking about accents. And most singers do not like to make accents. And it's something that sometimes that you get in a little bit of a situation with the conductor. And the conductor says, no, you have to do those accents. You cannot leave them out. And so the idea is how to do them. How to do them without hurting the voice. Well, you take a breath way down behind you as far as you can. Way down there, and then you literally hit the diaphragm. You don't hit the voice. You go, ah, ah, ah. See? If I do that, I get, my voice sits here, my resonance sits there, and all I have to do now, if I want to, I can keep doing those accents. Ah, ha, 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 ha. They're all here in the diaphragm. Or I can just hit the first one and go, ah, and leave the breath leaned there where that accent is. And then I don't have to worry about my voice sustaining. I can sustain fine. Some singers use that as a technique where they hammer the first note. They go, ah, like that. So if you have words, you can use words to hammer with. Forma divina. Now you get a little bit slicker than that. You have to do that a little bit smoother and slicker. Otherwise, you will just sound like you're up there hitting your voice instead of trying to make music, right? So if I'm doing something like that, I go, Ella, ella mi forra vida. Ella mi vorrà viva e quando celebre distanti prima perché mi risalgo interno un'anima corsa ancora mi spingesse. In other words, you're going to hit the first note that sets up something to make the accent effect. And the accent effect, what do I do then? Do I try to switch around and make another technique out of it, or what do I do? So I just maintain the same lean, some same connection that I'm using to get that accent in the first place. So I'll go, ah, ah, now what happens if I stay there? Ah, but not all accents are big ones, so I go, ah, ah, right? So the idea is we're trying to make music and please the conductor and please the audience and please ourselves. We're trying to please all the people all the time, which Abraham Lincoln said is not possible. You can be some of the people all the time and all of the people some of the time. But you cannot please all the people all the time. So that's what we're trying to do. Because every time I sing, I want to please the audience. I want them to like me. I want to keep a good relationship with the conductor and the stage director. Somebody says, well, I can't sing in this posture. I have to sit like this. I have to stand up. You see singers in the orchestra rehearsals. They have to stand up every time they sing. Why do you have to stand up to sing? Why? Think about it. I mean, why can't you just sit down or maybe even lie down? Why can't I do that? See what I mean? Forma divina. What if the stage director wants me to do it like I'm dreaming? Let's say I'm lying here asleep. And what do? I got to keep the eye open enough to see the conductor. And I do that from the standpoint of the audience. It looks like I am asleep. So I stay in some of these funny postures. But why? It's no reason why to, because I breathe behind me in my lower ribs in the back. And then in this case, right now, I'm hitting on my diaphragm. So I go, So I can do all these things in any posture I want to. I've actually stood on my head and sung an aria. Some stage directors don't care anything about the plot and the story. They want to make effects all night long. Physical effects on the stage. So you have I was doing Butterfly, doing the Love Duet and Butterfly, and behind me there were 4 sailors playing cards, shooting craps. How's that for staging? Plus there's a dramatic moment. Addio, no, la mia vicina. Addio. So, no, that's the wrong opera. I've got the opera. Oh, no, it is. Bimba dagli occhi miei Maria, ora sei tutta mia. And they're playing, shooting craps behind me, going, hey, Beverly, come on, come on. And he was having them do the real, like you, noisy like they really would be if they were shooting craps. And I'm noisy like I would be if I were a good tenor. So the idea is to be noisy enough to get over them, over the orchestra, and get out to the audience and let them hopefully like me. Oh, anyway. Most people, most singers, we're normal humans after all. I know. Men, Women, and Tenors. I know that book. Very good book. But the idea is that I'm worried that I won't be heard with all that noise going on. Well, you know, imagine if a baby were here going, guess what? It wouldn't matter how much noise was going on, you would hear that baby crying. So if I sing with my diaphragmatic function very much like a baby, then you know what? Maybe I will be heard regardless of what happens. You go in some big box store like Walmart or Costco or somewhere, and you walk in the front door and a baby's crying way back in the back of the building. You know what? You hear that baby all over that building. But why is that? Because how do babies breathe? How do they support? And what do they do? That makes their voices carry. If I could do that, I weigh 220 pounds, I'm 6 feet tall. So let's say I'm 10 times bigger than a baby, or maybe more. What if I can make my voice 10 times bigger than a baby's voice? My gosh, I'd have what I have the greatest voice in the world, certainly the loudest. Right? So the idea is, I'm going to sing as much as I can like a baby. Now, what do babies do? Think about it. First of all, when they cry in a way, we don't cry, the grown-ups don't cry that way. When I cry, believe me, I'm crying a lot after a performance, sometimes, but look, the idea, I'm joking. I always was laughing after my performances, like it doesn't really matter, but it didn't matter. Anyway, the idea is, I'm going to sing as much as I can the way a baby cries. And we cry out, devil, you should see what happened. It was so unfair what they did. My voice way up here. It doesn't quite work. It may be a German lyric baritone singing a lieder. But it's not exactly what I want to do as an opera singer and an operatic tenor. So I'm going to cry not like I would if I were really crying, but like I'm going to try to imitate a little baby who's this long. Now I had 4 children, and I loved every one of them, and they're all great vocalists. Actually, my older daughter died this year, Vivian Trimble, and she was part of the Luscious Jackson performance group. She was the keyboardist and, of course, sang also. So that was a tragedy, and I'm 87. You don't need to lose children when you're 87. Believe me, I'd rather they lose me than the other way around. But anyway, I'm going to sing it like a baby. Here we go. Now, let's analyze what babies do, at least what they sound like. When you listen to a baby, he's crying, he sounds like he's coughing. He's going, ah, 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 ah. Well, what is that? Ah, ah, look at that. So if I do my accent like that, I go, ha, places my voice, they're going to hear me like a rocket. Even though they're shooting craps or playing poker behind me, you will hear me, okay? Believe me, I've tried this. I've experimented with all of this. In big theaters, over big orchestras without microphone, and the best carrying sound is still the baby sound. Now, can I do it lighter? Still carries, see? Ora sei tutta mia. when we talked to Pavarotti, Luciano Pavarotti, how do you sing? And we finally got it out that he used a miniature cough on his navel. And he had several children, I think it was 3 children, and he started imitating his babies at home. And he realized that they have a kind of a, so he started doing that. But he did a miniature one, not a full blast one, a little one on his navel. So he goes, instead of going, he went, So if I do that, now the whole point, the whole reason we're worried about this is because the conductor, let's blame it on the composer. Composer writes accents. After the bel canto era sort of went by, like Donizetti was maybe the last great Italian composer of music written really in a more bel canto style. Of course, Rossini did too. But Verdi came along, and Verdi in the beginning was trying to write in a bel canto. But then something happened. Wagner became very, very famous and powerful, and Pavarotti and Verdi started adding things to his music, like accents and staccatos all over the place, crescendos and decrescendos. So now how am I going to sing Verdi with an accent that doesn't, I don't know what, blow out the whole total idea of bel canto singing? If you want to try to sing, if I were playing my violin, I'd go, but then all of a sudden he writes, Verdi wrote little mini accents all over the place, right? And you've got things like, and the text, and maybe that's why I did it, because the text, for instance, accento is a double C, right? And you stop it, it ends up making a little accent, unless you can downbow it away to keep it all legato. So, now what? What's going to happen? It's gonna, if I just relax, it's going to make an automatic accent whether I like it or not. It's another one. See, so the idea is when you're singing along with music and you don't want an accent, you would rather just get your down bow going and keep your legato going and go, and you do not want an accent. But sometimes the conductor will give you fits about it. They're not the nicest people in the world. And the greater they are, the more you love working with them. On the other hand, you better do what they tell you to do or you'll make an enemy. My old voice teacher, Olga Reese, used to say, what's interesting about conductors? They are like normal people until they get that baton in their hand. When they get the baton in the hand, that stick, all of a sudden they think they're Napoleon. It's true. So some conductor's up there and he's going, you sympathize with him because it's very hard to keep everybody together and keep all the people happy all the time. But if all we're worried about is accents, then we find a way where we can accent, please the conductor, still sound good, and more than anything else that's important in our lives as singers is we never damage the voice. We don't even want the voice to get tired. We want the voice to be always there and always reliable. And you know whose voices do not get tired? Babies. When they cry, they're teething. They might cry for a couple of weeks, the night and day. I mean, they're crying. You're up all night going, they're still crying. Oh, poor baby. And what happens? They don't get hoarse. I mean, babies, it's interesting. If a baby gets hoarse, he's got a germ and you got to take him to the doctor. They need medicine. But if they just go, all the time, it doesn't hurt the voice. And I'm 87 years old. I've been singing all day, every day here for weeks and weeks. I got out of the hospital in the middle of June. I couldn't even talk. When I got home, I've been trying to vocalize gently, get my voice back. And I'm still singing. My problem is maybe weakness and I get tired, but my voice is fine. That's all I care about. So let's see. We have several ways to breathe. One way to breathe. It's all in the Caruso book, folks. Read it. And you breathe. He said, breathe behind you and sing in front of you. Breathe behind you and pull your abdomen in. And he said, like a baby, because that's what babies do when they laugh or cry. That's what they do when they're asleep. When they're sleeping, they reverse it. The stomach goes out when they breathe and goes in when they sing. But when they wake up and start crying, I'm hungry, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I need attention, they pull in and go, and everything goes out. They fall down for a moment. They learn to walk, and they fall down. If it hurts them, they stand up and go, and then they do that breath where they suck the belly in and everything goes back. And of course, what it does is I don't know how the baby knows that, but it increases compression. It increases the compression in your lower back. When you do that, of course, you have more energy, more fuzz, everything. In yoga, you do a lot of breath of fire, and you wiggle the abdomen like that when you inhale. In, out. And somebody go, So I can accent all I want. It doesn't hurt me because everything is sitting down here, and the breath of fire has got my breath active, and that's providing the energy. So my voice is really. I was with a couple of friends, and we were listening to Richard Tucker in rehearsal, and he was singing. He's always sang this way. He used what he called a breath stop right here. Pa. But he can sing all that big Verdi music and go no problem. Anyway, sang this tremendous high note. We were just, oh my God, the paint's going to come off the walls. And he stopped and he said, you see, the voice does nothing. The breath does everything. So we got to figure out, how do we breathe if we want to make the conductor happy and do the accents and every other effect you can think of. And we do it, and we want to, if possible, we want to use that kind of resonance that carries like crazy. See? So it's never in the nose. I'm going to breathe in, pull my abdomen in. Okay, I've got it. Now I'm going to cry like a baby. So when I close my nose, it has no effect on the tone because I'm not singing. It's nasal. Caruso said in his book, never sing into the nasal cavity. In those days, they had no microphone, so to be heard and have the text carry and the melody's beautiful and over a big orchestra, and some of those theaters were big, they found out very quickly, don't use nasal resonance because it doesn't carry. You can make it sound pretty good in a small theater with a small orchestra, or maybe in a room. If I sing, I'm in my nose. The minute you close my nose, I feel like my eardrums are going to blow out. But you saw the first part of it. Sounded all right, pretty good. The only problem was it won't go anywhere. That sound that I do make tends to blend with the orchestra. The one I make that's like the baby's cry, that one is all diaphragmatic. It's coming out of my lower back like this, right? Not in my nose at all. It's up here somewhere. So placement, we can talk about placement. That's really for another video. The thing I wanted to do today was talk about accents, how to make an accent, because you will have to do them to make your conductors happy, for sure. And it will make your voice teacher very, very happy. But sometimes you have to find out a way to become, let's call it, professional, more professional. I read an article recently about Caruso, and somebody was saying Caruso was the most accomplished singer that ever lived. Now, that's an interesting adjective, isn't it? Accomplished. That means he could do things that other people couldn't do and do them better. I've heard a couple of singers like that in my lifetime. The lady was Zinka Milanov, who was a Croatian soprano and a phenomenal voice and singer. And she had the technique she sang the big Verdi parts, and she could do all those pianissimi and all the coloratura. You know, the trovatore got all that stuff, all that fat, and then she turned around doing an incredible high pianissimo that you never heard in your life. I never heard one anywhere else. Cavalier had a very beautiful pianissimo, but it was smaller and thinner, and she overused them. She did them all the time, so the effect was somewhat lost. Whereas Milanov would sing like a great big, huge voice, and all of a sudden she'd sing out pianissimo, and of course it would just absolutely curl your hair. It was so beautiful. Then the male singer that I heard that was the most accomplished was Jussi Björling. But you have to include Richard Tucker and Mario Delmonico and Franco Corelli and all these singers that were singing at the time who were just fantastic. They could do everything. But Björling did it with the most beautiful tenor voice I ever heard live. And he did, I went to hear him sing Don Carlo by Verdi, which was an opera that I had struggled through. I've got the tapes to prove I sang it. And I sang it a lot, I sang it 44 times. But everybody was losing their voice halfway through. They get exhausted. Giacobini lost his voice in the middle. Placido Domingo would poop out, get exhausted. Carreras, I don't know who all. Aragal, all these guys, fantastic voices. But they'd get tired. That opera made them tired. And so I would just figure, the character is hysterical. He's like that half the time. And then the rest of it is boring as mud. So it's the worst big tenor part I think I ever sang. And the mezzo and the bass just steal the show. They have some of the greatest music that Verdi ever wrote for voice. O Don Fatale for the mezzo, and Ella Jamai, what is it? I forgot, whatever it's called. She Never Loves Me, that famous aria that the bass sings. Ella Jamai Mamo, that one. And they're fantastic arias. But if I'm going to sing all of this music, how am I going to make an accent and please the coach and please the conductor and please everybody? And I'm supposed to be active. Now, the ultimate accenter that I ever heard was Giovanni Martinelli, and if you listen to him sing, even songs, he sings and I'm literally sang like that. And I asked him, I said, tell me, you're an Italian. Why in the world do you not have that typical legato that all the Italian singers have? They try all the time. He said, well, I'll tell you why. He said, I was engaged Metropolitan Opera to replace Caruso. Caruso died. They hired me. But nobody can be compared to Caruso. There was only one Caruso. He was unique. He was a phenomenon. And nobody wants to be compared to that. So I didn't want to be compared to Caruso. So you know what I do? I have one thing I can do as much as Caruso. That is, I can be loud. I have a big voice. So I decided I'm not going to worry about nothing. I'm only going to make a loud. So, and that's what he showed me. He called them hammered notes. Hammer. And the word for that is martellare, to hammer. So they're called martellati, hammered notes, right? So it's interesting that his name is Giovanni Martinelli, which is the man who hammers. And sure enough, maybe that's where he got the idea. I never asked him. I should have asked him, did your name inspire your technique? Anyway, so he would sing like that. He would sing, forma divina, mistico servo, di luce fior. So I said, look, why do you have to do that? I mean, he was 77, I was 20. That's it. I don't understand why you can't just do the first note and sing everything like that. He said, oh, please, you come in and give me advice? You're a 20-year-old fresh boy, don't know nothing, can't sing, never sung no place yet. What do you mean? I've been singing it for 60 years, and you're going to tell me what I got, how I'm going to sing it? And he went on that, and then he stopped. He went, I thought he was going to throw me out. He said, I'm going to try it. So he went, for arma divina, mystico zello, isn't that something? So then he just started singing, and I sat and listened. And I got very great friends with him after that. And he said, "You going to be a teacher? Well, you got that kind of brain. You're a mechanic. You mechanic. We the drivers. You're a mechanic. You can handle all the cars and tell us and make them work for the." So, and of course, I sang myself for 45 years, all over the German system. I sang in Cincinnati and San Diego and Dallas and places. I sang over here, but I was always tied down in Germany because I sang. In Germany, if you're a tenor, I'm not going to say I was a good tenor. I think I was. I sang 64 roles in 104 big concert pieces, so I think I did all right. But you really don't. You're singing every night sometimes because they have no tenor. Nobody has tenors. I used to sing in France all the time, and they're so nationalistic, and they don't want any foreigners, especially Americans. And they hired me all the time, over and over, because they didn't have a tenor. I even sang Coronation of Poppaea in where did I sing it? Well, I sang in Geneva for one, and I sang it around some of those towns, Strasbourg and Lyon. I don't remember. That's a long time ago, folks. Anyway, but they simply didn't have anybody. So then they hired me for that because they didn't want to use a contralto. They wanted to use a countertenor. Apparently, it was written originally for a countertenor. That's a falsettist. So they said, "Can you sing it?" I said, I don't think so. I don't think my falsetto's any good. I'm ready. So they said, "Well, can you sing it anyway?" I said, "Yeah, I can sing it in my tenor." He said, "What do you do?" So they hired me for it, so I did it. And it was all low. The whole thing was low. I think the highest note I had all night was an F. I never went up to above the staff. So you'd think it'd be easier, but it's very long and a lot of stylistic movement, and it had to be ballet, trained by the ballet master there. And it was very long. He does a lot of singing. So anyway, that's another story completely. The point is, if you're a singer, you have to sing a lot. If you're a tenor, you sing more than everybody else. Everybody else. I sang Carmen 504 times, and you sing an opera like Don Carlo, although I shouldn't have sung. I sang it, whatever it was, 46 times, and the French version's 5.5 hours long. And I had to sing 5.5 hours, but then I did Meister singing for Nuremberg, 5.5 hours. And then I did, of course, Don Carlo, and then I did Queen of Spades by Tchaikovsky. 5.5 hours. Now, folks, go out there all night and stand around your legs and stand up and sing like that for 5.5 hours. And I remember I sang the first note of the opera, almost the last note of the opera. I don't know if you know any of that music. It starts, let's see. Morgenlicht leuchtet im rosigen Schein, von Blütungsduft geschwellt die Luft. Von allen Wonnen nie Sonnen, ein Garten lud mich ein, dort unter einem Wunderbaum, von Friedenräume hangen. Anyway, it goes on like that, and the tenor sings. It's the longest role ever written for tenor. Longest role ever written for tenor, and I loved every minute of it. I love that opera. But anyway, but you can see it's important that you find a way that you will let you sing. If you're popular, you're going to sing a lot. If you're a tenor, you're going to sing every day. Right? Sometimes you rehearse all day and then sing performance at night. Sometimes you rehearse all morning and get in your Porsche, I had 3 of them, and you go in your Porsche and you drive to the performance area, and you're going to get in there and sing that performance. So you better have some voice left by the time you get there, after you've been rehearsing all day and singing every night for who knows how long, how many times. But how do you do it? The point I'm trying to make is we have to provide accents. The way to do them and have a voice left over is the baby style. Now, Lauritz Melchior was, of course, the greatest Helden tenor in history, and he taught me how he sang as a Helden tenor, and he told me never to sing either Siegfried, Götterdämmerung, or the opera Siegfried. Both of them have Siegfried, and never sing Tannhäuser, and never sing Tristan and Isolde. Those are the big 4 tenor parts. He said, don't you dare sing those. You have to have a voice like me for that. But you can sing the others. The easy one. He called them the easy one. I said, my sing as easy as 5.5 hours. Oh, that's nothing. But anyway, he told me to go, Allah, Allah, which is a sort of, Allah, it's very, very similar. And then you have to learn how to do them without making the prefix. Not, it's Allah, Allah, it's Allah, I don't know. I learned those big 4 that he called them, and I learned them with piano. I said, well, I think I can sing them, because people offer me all the time. I was getting offers all the time because they didn't have anybody. It wasn't because I was terrific. It's because they didn't have anybody else, and I could get through the notes. But I went to hear a performance of it. I went to Vienna and in Munich, both to hear these big bongers, and I said, you know what? I can't hear anybody. And I'm going to make a video on stuff Son of Melchior told me, but the idea is, he said, if you start singing that kind of music, you'll give too much voice. And you have a history of Tibaldi and Di Stefano and, endless singers that lost the voice completely from giving too much. Corelli was a great singer. Corelli was learning Otello, and he blew his voice out and couldn't sing anymore. In other words, you must not make your voice do anything. You go, like a baby, and that's all you got. You don't have more than that. You can have less. I can sing like that. You don't have to yell and scream and accent all the notes. But some of the music, I don't know why, but Martinelli was showing me, this is where you sing the tenor part in Rigoletto. Oh, how's that? He said, well, I didn't exactly think of the music that way. But you have to hate it. The guy, he was a genius. He sang when he was 77 when I met him. He's still singing. All right, I hope that'll give you an idea about accents. You're going to have to do them somewhere, so I thought I should maybe devote a video to them. Okay? Okay. Bye.